I remember the sound of the keys hitting the table, small, ordinary metal pieces, yet they sounded like something breaking inside me. Those keys had opened the apartment door hundreds of times, to laughter, late, night tea, and tired returns after long days. Now they lay between us like a final verdict. My sister Sana stood in front of me with arms crossed, eyes sharp and distant. We grew up sharing everything, even the last piece of bread some nights. But now she looked at me as if I were an unwanted guest in my own home. "You need to leave," she said. Her voice was flat, emotionless, trained to hurt without trembling. "I don't want you staying here anymore. I need my space. This is my building now." The words struck harder than a slap. "Your building," I repeated. Dad left it to both of us. She sighed, impatient. "I'm the one paying taxes. I handle the tenants. I deal with repairs. You just live here. I'm tired of carrying you." I swallowed the lump in my throat. I wasn't useless. I fixed leaking pipes, painted walls, managed complaints, cooked, stayed up when she cried over things she never admitted aloud. But my contributions were unpaid, unseen therefore to her. They did not count. "I'll try harder," I whispered, hating how small my voice sounded. Sana shook her head. "Do it somewhere else. There are heartbreaks that explode and heartbreaks that quietly suffocate." Mine wrapped itself around my chest, heavy and wordless. I looked around the apartment, the curtains I stitched, the plants I cared for, the photos of us laughing taped beside the mirror, and understood something painfully simple. I loved people deeply, and sometimes they didn't love me back the same way. I packed silently, a lifetime of memories folded into 2 bags. She did not help. She barely watched. Her phone glowed in her hand, full of conversations more important than me. At the door, I paused, hoping she would say something, anything to stop me. An apology, a hesitation, even my name. Nothing came, so I walked down the staircase without crying, each step peeling away the last layer of dependence. Cold evening air met me outside, sharp and honest. I stood beneath the fading sky and made a promise I whispered only to myself. If she believed I was a burden, then I would show her what I truly was, not weak, not helpless, but someone capable of rebuilding a life from the ground up, not with shouting, not with cruelty, just with strength she never expected. The night did not feel like darkness, it felt like rejection. Street lights stretched thin yellow circles on the pavement, as if even light didn't want to stay in one place for long. I sat on a park bench with 2 bags at my feet, my entire life reduced to zippers and fabric. The city moved around me as though nothing had happened. Cars passed, people laughed, food stalls hissed with burning oil. The world remained unchanged, and that hurt more than anything. My life had cracked open, and yet the sky didn't fall, the earth didn't shake. It was just me who had become suddenly, painfully small. When the wind rose, I wrapped my jacket tighter and listened to the rustle of leaves overhead. Anger burned first hot, loud, wanting to throw words into the air. But anger slowly cooled into something heavier, humiliation. I had been thrown out of the building I helped care for, dismissed like a guest who stayed too long. The place I called home had decided it no longer had space for me. I stared at my hands. They were tired hands, hands that had fixed broken doorknobs, carried groceries, cooked meals, typed until midnight, comforted my sister when she cried over failed relationships and unpaid bills. Yet those same hands were suddenly not enough. I opened my laptop. The screen was slightly cracked in one corner, but it still greeted me like the only old friend who hadn't changed sides. If I couldn't sleep, I could at least work. I rewrote my freelance profile, polished old projects, and messaged clients I had lost contact with. Pain sharpened my determination like a blade against stone. Hours passed unnoticed. The bench became a desk. The cool air became my deadline partner. At around midnight, a new email slipped into my inbox. A company seeking urgent design work, good pay, impossible deadline. My heart thumped not with fear, but with something fierce and alive. I sent my best samples. 10 minutes later, a reply appeared. "Will pay in advance. Can you deliver by tomorrow?" "Yes." I typed without hesitation. I worked through barking dogs, distant sirens, and the steady whisper of night. My eyes burned, but my mind was clear. I wasn't just working for money. I was working for dignity. Dawn eventually softened the sky into pale silver. When I sent the completed project, I waited with held breath. The payment notification arrived, full amount, plus a bonus. I closed my eyes and let relief wash over me like warm sunlight. I booked a small room that evening, one key, my name on the form. No one could throw me out, and just as I lay down on my own bed for the first time, my phone began to ring. It was Sana. Morning arrived wrapped in sunlight and unanswered messages. My phone buzzed again and again. Each vibration, a tiny knock, I refused to open. I had spent years being instantly available, racing to every call, every sigh, every please. Not today. By noon, her short messages turned into longer ones. The pride began to leak out of her words. Where are you? Please answer. Something's wrong with the building. I finally opened one voice note. Sana's tone no longer sounded like the confident owner of her building. It trembled at the edges, rushed and scared, like a child who woke up and found the lights gone. I let the note end before I called back. She picked up on the first ring. Thank God. Listen, everything is falling apart, she said breathlessly. The main water pipeline burst. The electrician says the wiring might be damaged. Tenants are threatening to leave. I don't know what to do. Please, please help me. The same lips that once said leave, now said please. I didn't feel triumph. I felt a quiet ache, the kind that comes when someone finally sees the weight you've always carried. You said it was your building. I said calmly, so handle it. There was silence, then the softest sound, pride breaking. I'm sorry, she whispered. The words were fragile, like something unused for years. I shouldn't have kicked you out. I thought you'd stay no matter how I treated you. I was wrong. I need you. Please come. Just for today. For a moment, the old version of me, the one who forgave instantly, who ran back even with fresh wounds, stirred. But then I remembered the cold bench, the bags at my feet, and the way my name meant nothing in my own home. I'll come, I said slowly, but not as before. She hesitated. What do you mean? I'll come as a professional, I replied. You don't get my help for free anymore. Consultant fee. The word fee hurt more than any insult. I heard it in her breathing, but she knew I was right. Okay, she said, voice small. Tell me the amount. I did. Not cruel, just equal to my worth. When I entered the building, tenants greeted me with visible relief. Questions flew, complaints softened, and within hours I had plumbers, electricians, and workers moving in rhythm. Sana followed me silently, watching the person she once called burden hold together what she couldn't manage alone. By evening, water flowed again, lights returned. The castle she claimed finally stood steady because of the person she threw out. As I turned to leave, she held my wrist. Her eyes glistened, not with drama, but with realization. I miss you, she said. Come back home. I smiled, calm, unbroken. I already have one now. People think revenge is loud. They imagine shouting matches, slammed doors, dramatic confrontations under stormy skies, but life rarely gives thunder. Sometimes revenge arrives like morning sunlight, quiet, steady, impossible to argue with. Days turned into weeks. Work kept flowing toward me, as though the world had secretly been waiting for me to finally believe in myself. One client recommended another, and another, until my small rented room began to look less like a temporary shelter and more like a life I had built with my own hands. Plants brightened the window, fresh notebooks stacked on the desk, my own cups in my own kitchen, my key alone in my pocket. And inside me, something was repairing too. Not fast, not magically, just steadily. One evening, there was a knock on my door. I already knew who it was before I opened it. Sana stood there, without the proud posture, without the invisible crown she wore when she called the building hers. She looked tired. Real, human, can I come in? She asked softly. I nodded. We sat across from each other with 2 cups of tea between us. The steam curled upward like small bridges trying to form where words had failed for so long. For several moments neither of us spoke. Sometimes silence is an apology all on its own. I thought owning things made me strong, she finally said. The building, the money, the authority. I kept calling it mine because I was scared of being small. But when everything went wrong, no one looked for the owner. Everyone asked for you. Her voice trembled, but not for effect. It trembled because truth can be heavy when you finally decide to carry it instead of running from it. I hurt you, she continued, not just by kicking you out, but by making you feel invisible long before that. You never deserved it. For the first time, I saw genuine remorse, not just regret because she needed help, but regret because she finally understood the shape of the wound she had made. I didn't gloat. I didn't list everything she had done. I just nodded, because some pains don't need to be performed again once you've healed past them. I'm proud of you, she said. You didn't try to destroy me back, you just grew, and that was the truth of it. The sweetest revenge wasn't making her cry. It wasn't watching her beg. It was becoming someone who no longer needed the approval, the building, or the permission she once held over me. Revenge was peace, revenge was independence. Revenge was walking her to the door, hugging her as a sister again, not as someone who owned me, not as someone I depended on, but as two separate people who finally stood on equal ground. She left with tears in her eyes. I closed the door with a smile, not bitter, not triumphant, simply calm. Because I had my own keys now, and the storm I became never needed to hurt anyone. It only needed to learn how to shine.